Hi everybody! Today is the day I am going to show you my entire pen collection. I've gathered everything from around my house and pulled all of my different pens from all of my different planners so you can see exactly what I own. I know that some of you have been waiting for this, and so I hope that you enjoy this as much as I love watching everybody else's pen collection videos. I'm going to go ahead and pre-answer a question that I know I'm going to receive. And that is, why do you have so many pens? What's the point? I don't get it. Well, there are several answers to that question. First of all, because I can. This is a free world. We all make choices, and I may not necessarily make the same choices as somebody else, but I have respect that we all ultimately decide what's best for our own lives. And this is an area that is good for me. Number two is that they really make me happy. I don't know why, I can't explain it, but they just really bring a lot of joy to my life. This probably sounds really weird to a lot of you. Others of you will totally get it. But sometimes I just look at my pens and I open up all of the different cases and I just bask in the gloriousness. They just bring a smile to my face. Third is that I have found that you need a different type of pen depending on a situation. Sometimes you want a super fat stub or like a calligraphy pen. Other times you want a really fine tip. Other times you want basic black ink. Other times you want super sparkly purple. There are different qualities. Sometimes you want a permanent ink or a water-based ink. It just depends on the situation. You would never tell an artist you can only use one brush and one color of paint. It's the same thing with a writer. It just depends on your mood, it depends on the job that you're doing. Whatever it is, different pens or work for different kinds of paper. It's just the nature of the beast here. And lastly is that you really don't know what you like until you actually try it. You can get all of the opinions in the world and actually get recommendations from experts, but until you hold a pen in your hand, see how it feels, see how the ink writes and how it looks on the paper, and if it just feels good to you, you don't know that until you actually try it. So you can make good decisions up front, but you just really don't know it until you actually try something. And I have had those experiences, which I will show you, so sometimes you just end up with pens that aren't your favorite for whatever reason. Another thing I want to talk about in this video is anytime you have a collection like this, in the back of my mind first of all, I'm like, that's awesome. Like, I love that. But what I think is that, how do you store that? How does that look in your home? How do you have it organized? How do you keep it contained? How do you find what you need? And so I want to address that here. I'm going to show you my favorite pen cases because it's the same thing as pens. There is a learning curve or a process that you go through to finally find what your favorites are. So without further ado, I'm going to start showing you my pens now. And I also want to make a distinction here. There are certain types of pens that your go-to pens you use all the time every single day. And then there's a difference between those and pens that you store or ones that you just own. So I'm going to start with the ones that I am using very frequently. This you've probably seen before, and this is my ceramic watering jar, can, whatever you want to call it. Last year, this looked completely different. Next year, it's going to look completely different. But I always have my go-to pens in here. This sits on my desk, and if you've followed my journey, you know that one of my planner goals is to use up a lot of pens. And so these are the ones that I've decided for this year to use up. In general, these are my least favorite pens. In general, these are gel pens. And I do have like 2 ballpoints, I believe. And also in general, I will not be replacing 99% of these when I am done with them. For whatever reason, they're just not my personal preference. So I have things like my Smash pens. These are the Sakura Glazes. These are Sakura Soufflés. I have Right Dudes, Uniball Deluxe Micros, liquid flares. I think those are the main brands. And then one exception to this is I do have my Pilot metallic juices in here. I really love these juices, but the reason they're in this is because I have chosen those for my gratitude journal. So I need these front and center. So this is something that I go to every single day. Every time I come into my office and I sit at my desk, this is what I see first. And so it just reminds me to use up these pens. This sits right over here as its general position. The next thing that I go to is going to be this basket right here. This one sits on a shelf in my office, and so it's still very accessible, but it's just not the first thing that I see. And in general, these are going to be higher quality gel type pens that I really do like, and I probably would replace the majority of these if I use them all up. So these are like my Pilot G2s. These are actually the 0.38s though, the fine point, not the regular point. Along those same lines, I've got my Papermate Ultra Fine Flares. These are my Signo white pens that I use. I've also got things like regular Signos, and these are Energels, and then I also have my micas in here. So these are pens that also are not like a huge amount. Sometimes I'll show you in just a moment, but I have, you know, just a rainbow of colors in certain pen types, but these just are having a few, you know, I just bought like a little pack of those. So this is what those are. I would say I probably reach for these several times a week. So I'm not in these every single day, but I do use them frequently enough that they need to stay out. Then my last thing that I use frequently is this basket right here. You probably recognize my ink test booklet. And then I've also got my scissors and my palette knife that I use to cut my washi. But in general, this is where I keep all of my highlighters. Now with my highlighters, they are double-sided, so technically I could use these as a felt type of marker pen. And I have my Mochi things set, actually 2 sets, and then I've got my Propels, and then I also have my Zebra mild liners here. This is the only exception that I'm going to bring up. These normally don't stay in here. I have these stored with my Bible basket because this is what I use to highlight and when I'm note-taking and things like that. But I brought those out just for the purposes of the video to put them right there. So those are the 3 things that are on my desk or right within arm's reach for me every single day. So now I'm going to shift gears and tell you about my pen storage. So I'm going to show you some things, and I think it's important not only to know what works for you or what are your favorites, but also some things that you've tried that aren't, because I think you can learn valuable lessons from both of those. These you probably recognize are the passport cases. I did try these like everybody else, but what I found that I preferred, I like only my pens to be stored. I don't like my pens with other supplies. I know that sounds a little bit OCD. I also don't like my pens touching each other. I like certain pens here and certain pens here, and I don't like them to mix and mingle. I don't like them all askew. I like them facing the same way. And so that's just something that I've learned that I prefer. So these passport cases were not good for me. This is another thing that was okay, but not fantastic. This is a case from Target. As you can see, I washed it and it got faded. The metal zipper was a little bit difficult to use, and then on the back it's got a really nice elastic, so it's a good idea. It fits around a planner, but this also limits it. As you can see, it only fits around larger types of planners. So that is another thing that didn't really work. I had a lot of mesh types of pouches, which I really like, and most of the things I'm going to show you, I'm still going to use, just not for pen storage. And then this is a purse organizer. Again, I really like this thing, just not for pens. I also have a whole bunch of other things that I have tried and either given away to Goodwill or given away to friends or family members that wanted them. But these are some things that I have left. I also wanted to show you this little thing, which is technically a remote control holder for your living room. And I really like this thing. As you can see, it swivels around. So I had a bunch of pens in here. It worked out great for a little while, but the problem I had was some pens were falling through here unless this was completely filled up, which it wasn't always. And then it also became just a little bit too small, so I needed a little bit bigger storage. But again, I just think it's important to find out what doesn't work as well as what does work. So now let's go ahead and talk about my pen storage. So this is another basket, and this is probably, I'm going to say, 12-inch cube here. So a really nice size, not too big, not too small. And I'm going to share, of course, these are going to be my favorite cases because I'm actually using them. So I will link these below. Of course, I can't link all my pens because that would just be a mile long. This first one, as you can see, doesn't fit in here, and that's because it isn't stored with this. I just brought this again out for the purpose of the video, but this is a pen case that I have, and this is a Lihit double pen case, which is L-I-H-I-T. I would say in general that's my favorite brand of pen case. Another thing that I've learned, at least for me with pen cases, is I do prefer the ones that are actually made for pens, which I know that seems kind of like a no-brainer, but a lot of people use cosmetic cases or other types of just random cases, and that's fine. But for me, I like things to be very orderly, like I said, and so just use something that was specifically made for that. So this one is in the green, and I'm going to show you what's in here. The reason this is not stored in here is because this holds all of my creative, artistic supplies, and I say that loosely because I'm not an artist in any way, shape, or form, but I have shown you that I like to color in my anatomy coloring books. So this is the Crayola 50 pack of colored pencils. The entire pack does fit in here, which I think is super duper cool. And I just keep those in there. And then the second one over here houses my, again, nothing fancy, these are my Crayola watercolors. So when I ordered these, they do come in the different columns. I have 3 different sizes of water brushes that I wanted to try. And then I also have a pencil sharpener for my colored pencils. So this is not a perfect fit only because of this third one, but it works just fine. This I keep in my living room. I have an end table where I keep all of my coloring books and my crayons as well. And I just have a drawer that I just pull out, and so that's where this lives mainly. They do have, this is the large size, by the way. They do have a small size just in case you're interested. And I got the majority of my cases at either Amazon or Jet Pens. As you can see, I kind of gravitate towards blues and blacks here. Let's go ahead and I'm going to start with the smallest one. This is a Kikuyo C2 tray. And as you can see, that's why it's called that, is because it folds out. Another thing I like about pen cases is if they have a square bottom like this, and so they lay flat and they don't fall over. This tray right here holds all of my ultrafine microns. So it goes back to what I was talking about. When I want my ultrafine microns, I want to know exactly where they are. I don't want to have to go searching through different cases or rifling through a whole bunch of different pens. I want to know exactly where they are. So my Micron 01s are faced this way, and then my smallest set, which is 005, is faced that way, and so that's how I keep those two separate. So even within the pen cases, I like to have things organized. This is in the navy blue, and they have a whole bunch of different colors of this one. Then let's do this one. This is a Neocrits transformer. Again, I got this from Jet Pens. This has a double zipper. So I'm going to show it to you first this way. You can zip down and then you can just kind of grab something out. So if you're in your purse or your backpack, you don't want everything exposed or falling out or open. So I think it's a good thing that they have this. If you want it to sit on your desk, you actually zip it up to the top. And then it has a flat bottom like this. And then you can fold this down. And so then everything is just right there and accessible. This case is where I keep all of my mechanical pencils. So these two right here are 0.5s. These other 3 right here are 0.2s and 0.3s. I've also got my erasers in here. I also have my leads in here. And then because the nature of pencils is that, you know, we can't have a standard size eraser, I have the different sizes of erasers right here. And so that's what I store in that case. Then let's go ahead and do, you've seen this one before. I actually have a video on this one. I keep this stored. These are not pens, but these are all of my refills and supplies that go with my pens. So my multi-pens, these are where all the leads are. So my Coletto, my Pentel, Uni, and what's the last one? My Frictions in there. So all of those stay in there. That is an Orly Kylie case. So remember I talked about that I don't really prefer cosmetic cases, well, it depends on what you want to store. I actually really like this for this particular purpose. I have another Orla Kylie case, and again, only one type of pen in here. These are all of my frictions. Now I have friction highlighters in here. I also have the friction ball slims, which are the 0.38s, and then I have the regular set, which are the friction balls, and these are the 0.5s. And I also have a couple of multi-friction pens in here. I think they're probably at the bottom, but I have a 3-color one and a 4-color one. And so all of my frictions are in here. So again, if I want my frictions, I know it automatically, just pull out this and I'll be able to find it. The next one is this one, and this one is a Cubix, C-U-B-I-X. This again is, this is probably my favorite style of case, where it's like, I think they call it a book style, where you just open it up. And to begin with, this very front pocket, I have extra barrels in here that are empty. I originally bought this one for my daughter. She wanted one, but this is a 5-color and she only needed 3 colors. So I ended up giving her one of these. I showed this to you when I got my case and my friction refills, or sorry, my Coletto refills. These came, I got a 4-pack for free with that, and so I've already used 2 out of the 4. But I just store the extra ones right there, and then you open it up and ta-da! These are all of my multicolor pens. This is one of those things I was talking about. I just love looking at this. It makes me super happy. So this is just a nice basic case, but this is my preferred way of storing pens. Then I've got this one right here, which this is I think this is just a J. Crew brand. And again, it's got that flat bottom. I like just the basic stripes, nautical or whatever. These house all of my different Sharpies. I'm going to have to say that Sharpies were my first love. I used to write exclusively with an ultrafine Sharpie. But I have my minis in here, and then I have the ultrafine and the fine points in here. So all of my permanent markers or my Sharpies are in this one. And I have to say that these are my extras. I do have more than that, which I'll show you in just a second. I love them. I just love them. This case right here is another Lehit brand. This is, I think they just call it a pen case, but it's really, looks like a hot dog to me. It's really long and skinny. This one is probably 3 inches by 9 inches, I think, are the dimensions on that. In this little pocket right here, I have some extra cartridges and supplies for the pens that are in here. So this case is all of my fancy type of lettering pens, which I'll show you right now what I mean. So here off the bat is my glass fountain pen. Now technically in my brain I would want to store this with my other fountain pens, which I'll get to in a minute, but this one is glass, and so I was afraid that it was going to break. I needed to keep it in the case, and also I wouldn't normally write with this pen. This really is for specific types of inks, and so it does fit and go along with the different pens in here. I've got some paint pens in here, some calligraphy pens, and then I've also got my Micron brush set in here. And then this is just a supply on how to clean out your brush. And then of course here's some more calligraphy pens, some Sharpie calligraphy pens. So these are like my special lettering types of pens. Then let's see, I think we've only got one to go, and that is save the best for last. This is still, if you're wondering, yes, still my all-time favorite pen case. This is the Lehit Tefa pen case. It's still basically the same setup, except for the fact that this houses now all of my different fountain pens. So you can see right here, I'll do a separate video on a lot of these different types of pens that I'm showing you, but I just have all of my fountain pens in here, and then all the different supplies. So I have different inks and different converters back here. I do still have my Micron assorted set because I love that, and that's still how my setup looks. So that is what I store underneath my desk. Not done yet, folks. Still got 2 more to go. Okay, I do have a video, and I've done a video on this one, but this is the Copic 72 wallet case, which I love. When I talked about my Kipling 100, how it just didn't really work for me because all of the things were mixed and mingled and I didn't like that. Great pen case, just not great for me. This is what I found. And so I did a setup video on this and a review. So it just Velcros open. And this is where I house all of my large types of sets that I talked about, where I have like tons of different colors of a certain type of pen. So here is my entire Pilot G2 set. This is the 0.7s. All of them are right here. This is my entire set of Pilot Juices. You flip it over, and this is my micron set, and these are 0.5s. So like I talked about how you'd want different types of tips, I have all the different microns and all the different tips. This is my Statler case, as you can see, my 20 pack. And then these are my regular Papermate flares. And then here's what I was talking about. This is my Sharpie collection. So here are all the ultrafine Sharpies. Here are my fine point Sharpies, my favorite ones. So I have other colors, but these are the double tip that I really like, and these are the metallic sets. And then this is the entire set of just the regular Sharpie pens, not the permanent ones. On the very back pocket, there are a few I was going to say a couple, but I think it's more than that. Yep, I've got 4 juice pens that wouldn't fit in the slots, but I just really love this. And this is what I was talking about. What I prefer for pen storage is just have it very sleek and organized. Everything has its own little spot. They're not touching each other. They're not getting mixed up. So this is a beautiful site for me. And then last but not least, I do still have the Orla Kylie large travel cosmetic bag, whatever it's called. And the last issue that I had with pen storage was all the different cases that I had. So some pens, obviously, when you buy them, they don't come in cases. They just come in little packages, and then you have to find a way to store them. But specifically, I had some things like my Statler calligraphy set. I also have the Statler mobile offices here. Here's my extra, I have talked about how I have extra Pentel 8 colored pencils, pens, and then here's my ballpoint Statlers. So this is what I was talking about. I needed something to hold all the cases, and the Kipling 100 just wasn't big enough for me. Then in the back here on this zipper pocket, I've got my Stabilo 88s. This is the 18 travel pack set. And then this is the very last thing. I've got my regular size Stabilo set. I think it's like 24 or 26. I've got my Le Pens right here. And then I've got my Signos. And actually this came with a nice case, and it had enough that I could actually put my Slickies in here too. So it's got Slickies and my ultrafine Signos. These are 0.28, and then the Slickies are 0.25. So anyway, that is my entire collection, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got a pen collection video, let me know. I would love to see it, and I mean that sincerely. So thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys again soon.